Shoot your arrows! Cooper Kupp plucks it out of the air and gives the Rams the lead. Robert Woods, touchdown! LA! Goff goes crashing into the end zone. Aaron Donald almost beat the football there. Corey Littleton, have yourself a day. Picked off. Marcus Peters coming off the edge, and Ryan will be wrapped up by Clay Matthews. Everett in stride! Wow!
Franklin Myers gets his hand down there.
Weddle got a hand on it. Did he pick it? He did!
Racing down the sideline is a key to lead. Gurley for MVP! Touchdown LA!
Picked off by John Johnson. Well, it's Dante Fowler who is able to get to breathe.
Greg Zuerlein sends the Rams to the Super Bowl! LA will play for the Lombardi!
Welcome back, guys, to a Downtown Rams Live. It's another one. We're doing it pretty much right before kickoff. A lot of stuff went down this week. Lex is very busy. I'm very busy. So we were unable to get a podcast out to you normal time, but we figured we couldn't let you guys go into this game without one. So we're going to be previewing Rams-Bengals. It's in London. Luckily, they're not playing at 9:30. Otherwise, this podcast would be pretty much obsolete. But they are playing at none other than 1 p.m. Eastern time. And what can I say? It should be an easy win. The Bengals are 0-7. I mean, Alexis, is there anything that I missed there?
No, I mean, like you said, this game should be the easiest that the Rams have all year. This should not be a game that is remotely challenging. There's really nobody on that Bengals team that you could call, somebody to be worried about per se. AJ Green is out, which certainly doesn't help the Bengals. He's probably one of their most talented players. I mean, arguably the only player on their team that I can think of that would be, somewhat of a challenge would be Joe Mixon.
Yeah, I definitely see how that's a fair point. Mixon's a very talented running back. Obviously, we saw him at Oklahoma. Just very talented, can, hurt you in the passing game, can hurt you obviously running the football. But this is also an interesting thing because you bring them up, and the Bengals are actually 32nd in the league against running backs. They allowed over 200, I believe 50 yards to 49ers running backs, and there's not one guy there that's probably better than Todd Gurley. So it just kind of goes to show you that was before Tevin Coleman even came back. It was Jeffrey Wilson, and it was Matthew Breida, and it was even Raheem Mostert. So those are the type of guys that they've allowed a ton of yards to. I'm expecting a lot of Todd Gurley and Darrell Henderson. Malcolm Brown's out in this game. You could see some John Kelly. To me, it's London. I feel like the Rams are just going to want to run the football, establish that run early on, and then maybe just make things easier for Jared Goff to be able to, really operate the way they want him to, and that is through play action. I think you're going to be seeing a lot of Gerald Everett flexed out wide. I mentioned that throughout the week all over social media. I believe Gerald Everett is being phased out as a tight end, and I believe he's turning more into a bigger wide receiver. I think you might see more of Johnny Munt. He's been really impressive in the blocking area. And you could see some Tyler Higbee, but really this is a huge opportunity to showcase the third-round pick that you traded up for in Darrell Henderson.
Yeah, I think that we're definitely going to see a lot of him. Hopefully, he gets a chance to shine today, and we can see more of him because we haven't seen as much of him this season as we thought that we were going to originally when they drafted him. So, that's something to look out for. If the Rams do decide to, switch up maybe a little bit and start, involved in the pass.
Yeah.
Cooks, Woods, and Kupp.
Well, the thing is like, it's so hard to predict, like, who's going to get, who's going to ultimately get their opportunities, right? So, I mean, when you look at this, you're like, well, Gerald could go off, and then you're like, well, Woods could go off, and Cooks could go off. And it's like, all these guys could technically go off, but you never know, right? You never know who's going to be, the beneficiary of, this passing attack and of this, this offense in general. The good news is that the Rams seem to have found a guard that at least has somewhat calmed down the offensive line woes, and that is our guy that we've been raving about, David Edwards.
Yeah, he's a guy that you and I have liked for a long time, and somebody who really helped, I think, last game against the Falcons, and we saw what he could do. He's a guy that should be there. I mean, people argue, I think, about him being maybe a tackle in the long run. I like him, in either spot. I mean, right now he's playing guard. I think he's doing good at guard. So yeah, I just hope that the offensive line can build off the success that they had last week against the Falcons and, just bring it against the Bengals.
Yeah, I definitely hear you there. And, just looking at the Bengals, I mean, they're going to have to go up against Carlos Dunlap and Sam Hubbard, two guys on the edge. And I think, Sam Hubbard's actually having a really good year. He's been efficient. This is somebody that was very efficient at Ohio State. And, he's kind of worked his way into this lineup, and I think they really like him. Again, this is an 0-17, but it doesn't mean they can't have talent. I mean, they still have, of course, Carl Lawson, and, of course, they have Carlos Dunlap, who, I mean, he's a sack machine. I mean, he's been doing it for a long time. So him and Sam Hubbard on the edge. Then you have Geno Atkins and Andrew Billings, the nose tackle from Baylor. And then you have, I mean, they're pretty loaded in the defensive line. They have Ryan Glasgow. And then they have Andrew Brown, somebody that really made a name for himself in the preseason. And then they have our guy, Renell Wren, who came on this show. And, I mean, he's going to be a stud someday. He's just, he hasn't had his time yet. So they're really loaded as well as with Anthony Zettel, in that line, the defensive line group. Moving on, though, the linebackers. You look at Nick Vigil, Preston Brown, and then you have Jermaine Pratt and Jordan Evans. And it's a solid group. I don't think it's anything to freak out about. It's not, a Jalen Smith and Leighton Vander Esch or anything like that. But, I think it's a solid group. And then, obviously, the defensive backs. I think the Rams really need to target anybody that BW Webb is covering. Because I know, because you watch a lot of Giants football. I watch a lot of Giants football because they're, obviously local, and I'm in New York. The Giants had B.W. Webb as their starter last year, and I don't know if I've seen worse cornerback play. He was really, really, really rough to watch, and I think whoever he covers is going to have a field day. Then they have Darqueze Dennard, I think he's solid. Sean Williams and Jesse Bates in the back end. I think Jesse Bates is a stud. So, I mean, it's not really, like, you can see they have Drake Kirkpatrick and, William Jackson III as well, but, they've been battling injuries. So, I think all in all, really the defensive line is the only thing that could really, I guess challenge the Rams offense, because if the Rams have a hard time throwing against the secondary, that's going to be a big issue.
Yeah, definitely. Like I said, I think it could be an opportunity for our receivers to, really go off today for Jared Goff if he plays, calm and composed. I think that he can have a big game as well. And yeah, I think that, like we've been saying, this game should not be. I mean, if the Rams are going to blow anybody out this year, it's probably going to be this team. But listen, you can lose any game. Okay, the Rams, any team can lose against anybody if you don't go in with the mindset that you're playing a competitive team and you don't, play your game and you don't put 110% effort in, because it's still the NFL. These are still NFL players. It doesn't matter what their record is. You have to go in. You have to give it your all. You can't just expect that you're going to win the game. So, hopefully the Rams do that, and hopefully they come away with the win.
Yeah, of course. I mean, they have to play the games. That's what it comes down to. I'm really interested to see who Jalen Ramsey is going to play. I know, Cincinnati isn't going to want Tyler Boyd to get shut down, so they're probably going to try to get him opportunities and move him away from Ramsey. Personally, that's who I see him covering. I think this is a game that Auden Tate could, emerge. He's had a solid, few games They also have Stanley Morgan Jr. and Alex Erickson. I'm not as high on Alex Erickson. I know he just went off last week. I don't see the Rams allowing that. I think this defense, since adding Jalen Ramsey, they're now able to play the game that they want to play. And I think because of that, guys like Darius Williams, guys like Troy Hill, and Nickel Roby-Coleman, I think can really lock down this receiver group. Auden Tate, the thing about him, he's 6'5". Like, he is a mismatch in a sense because he is such a big he is a freak. I mean, he is a freak athlete. He is such a big receiver, and that is definitely a mismatch. As far as the offensive line, you have Cordy Glenn, you have Billy Price, and then, I mean, it's yikes. Trey Hopkins, Alex Redmond, and Bobby Hart. Once again, the Giants were more than happy to let go of Bobby Hart. I don't know what's going on with the right side. This is a really good opportunity for Aaron Donald to just absolutely explode today. You saw his 4-sack game last year against the 49ers. I wouldn't be surprised if he has another 4-sack game against the Cincinnati Bengals. I mean, unless he gets triple teamed by Hart, Redmond, and Hopkins, which I don't even think they're good enough to triple team him, it could be a long day. Now, Billy Price is a solid player, somebody they expect to be really good. He's, first-round pick in 2018. And Cordy Glenn is somebody they traded, to get from Buffalo. So, I mean, I think that left side is solid. I think it's still, like somebody like Okoronkwo, I think could break through. Like, I'm not, worried about that. But the right side is just yikes. And I think the Rams have a huge opportunity to explode on Cincinnati just from their defensive, their pressure.
Yeah, definitely. I think that, I would not be shocked to see Aaron Donald or anybody on this defense go off today. So that's something to work out for as well. I think the defense can explode, and I think the offense can explode. I think it's really just up to the Rams to do what they, are talented enough to do, and I think that they'll do it.
Yeah, I just think looking at this, it's a huge opportunity for a lot of different things to happen for the Rams. This is right before a bye. They can get a lot of things on track. They can get the passing game on track. They can get the running game on track. They still have yet to really explode in the running game. Todd Gurley has still not had a 100-yard game running the football. So, we could see a lot of that. Darrell Henderson is still yet to find the end zone. And then, of course, you could get John Kelly a little bit involved. Like, Malcolm Brown's injury is a little worrisome because it went from he had the same injury as Todd, where he was going to be out a game because, Todd Gurley was out a game, to now he has, I believe, an ankle injury. So now he's out again. So, I mean, this is kind of a pattern that we've been seeing. Malcolm Brown is a very good running back to have on your roster, but, I guess this is why, teams can't really count on him to be a starter and make that leap because he's constantly getting hurt. I mean, he looks really good when he's healthy, and he's done so much to, obviously it looks like he's lost some weight, he's gained some speed and some quickness and agility, but I mean, altogether, if you can't stay healthy, the best ability is availability. And, he's now out again. So this is really a huge opportunity for Darrell Henderson to kind of push himself to the top of that depth chart, right behind Todd Gurley. So I'm really interested in that. I'm really interested to see Gerald Everett's, amount of targets have gone way up over the last few weeks after really starting in the lower portion of the team. But it's really interesting because he is now he's being targeted as much as, Robert Woods or Brandon Cooks, not Cooper Kupp, as we've talked about. Jared Goff he loves Cooper Kupp. He's constantly targeting him. But it's really interesting to see that. So I'm hoping he has a huge game. I'm expecting a lot of turnovers. I mean, really, at the end of the day, I think that I don't really like Andy Dalton that much as an NFL quarterback. I think if your goal is to win a Super Bowl, you don't trot Andy Dalton out there multiple years in a row. So I do feel for the Bengals fans. Zach Taylor versus Sean McVay is a cool dynamic, but again, Zach Taylor is coaching a really poor football team. And, even though they've lost some players due to injury and AJ Green won't play, that's still, they wouldn't be that much better with AJ Green. So this is a team that's basically, they're looking for a win. And, deep down the management's probably hoping they lose every game so they can, draft first overall and get their actual quarterback. But this is a huge game for the Rams, going 5-3 into the bye. And then you can roll with that momentum going against, the Steelers, the Ravens, the Cowboys. You got, 2 games against the Cardinals, 1 game against the 49ers and Seahawks. So, it's a huge opportunity for the Rams, especially with the way that things looked like it was falling apart, losing 3 straight. If they win this game, I know they've only played Atlanta and Cincinnati, but you play what's on your schedule. And, it's really good. It's a good look for them to get back on track heading into the bye.
Definitely. And as far as predictions go, I'm predicting that the Rams win this game 35-3. I think Aaron Donald has 2 sacks. And I think Darrell Henderson is getting his first NFL touchdown today.
I like it. I'm going to go the Rams force 5 turnovers on the Bengals. Donald gets 4 sacks. Gerald Everett has 2 touchdowns. Todd Gurley goes over 100 yards. And what else? Darrell Henderson has a good game, but I don't expect him to go off, but I think maybe like a 70-yard game total offense and then maybe throwing a touchdown. So those are a lot of predictions there. Again, 5 turnovers. I know it's a lot to predict, but I think the Rams defense is going to absolutely eat in London. And for the people saying, well, it's in London, anything can happen, the last time the Rams played a team like this in London, they won 33-0, and it was the Cardinals. And I think they're very similar to the Cardinals team they faced. So I think the Rams will steamroll, the Bengals. I don't really even expect it to be close at any point in the game. I think if the Rams decide to defer, they probably get a turnover on the first drive. They, turn over Andy Dalton, interception or something. If they decide to take the ball, I think they score on the first drive, and I think it's just all downhill from there, for the Bengals. And it's tough because to fly out to London and then get absolutely pulverized is just awful.
Yeah, I mean, we'll see, but I think our predictions are pretty realistic. I don't think anything that we've said is just too out there.
Yeah, I'll say that. Score prediction. Well, this is going to be hard because I want to get it actually right, and I also have to keep it realistic. But at the same time, I feel like realistic is. I mean, we're looking at 45-7 game. Like I really believe that. I think. Really, I don't really think the Bengals have really anything to combat the Rams. They don't have one matchup where they're better than the Rams in. Maybe when they have AJ Green out there, you could say that, say he goes up against Troy Hill. Yes, he would win that matchup. But, there's not one matchup where I'm like, yeah, the Bengals definitely win that matchup. I mean, Samson Ebukam, if he plays on the outside against, Cordy Glenn, I give the edge to Cordy Glenn. But, maybe Billy Price versus Sebastian Joseph Day, I give to Billy Price. But, aside from that, you're talking they only win 2 matchups. That is really all I'm seeing there. So, I'd say 45-7. I mean, it sounds crazy, but you know what? I just think that it's going to be an absolute blowout. And I remember, a long time ago, it seems like a long time ago, when Sam Bradford and the Rams rolled up in London to play the Patriots. And they started off the game with a huge touchdown. I remember that. It was to Chris Givens. And I actually had the feeling that we were never going to win the game, but I was like, wow, at least now we'll keep it close. That just made me feel good, right? You start off the game with a huge touchdown pass, and then they didn't score, and the Patriots got into the 40s, and it was just awful. I mean, I remember Rob Ninkovich tossing Sam Bradford 10 yards. On a sack. It was ridiculous. So I don't know what happened there. I mean, the wheels technically fell off. I just see if anything were to happen like that, I think it'd be the Bengals. Maybe they throw, a quick touchdown pass like that, and then I just think they're going to get steamrolled. But again, maybe I should have more respect because they do play in the NFL, but again, they're 0-7, and they really haven't done anything since week 1 when they really should have beat the Seattle Seahawks.
Yeah. No, yeah, definitely. That was a game that we should have won and didn't. But, like we said, going into this week, we won, we beat the Falcons, and we're about to play the Bengals. And yes, people are like, oh well, look, it's the Falcons, the Bengals, of course that you should win. And yes, I understand that point, but I think it's all about using these games to perfect what you want to do in the future, and just making sure that you keep up consistency and just build. It's just building blocks. So yes, we're going into a week where we're playing the Bengals. Yes, they're 0-7. Yes, they're a pretty bad team. But you know what? Like I said earlier, you got to go in. You have to give it your all. You cannot expect a win. These are still NFL players on an NFL team. If the Rams go in there and they, aren't focused, they'll lose the game. But I don't think that's going to happen. I think they're going to go. They're going to win easily. It should be, it shouldn't be much of a challenge. It shouldn't really be a close game. So I think as Rams fans, this game, you should just be looking to see if players are building on what they did last week, and just doing the small things right.
Yeah, it's really important. I mean, they, just obviously play your game. You come in at least looking prepared, and I mean, really, the Rams should win this at 70% effort. But I just don't expect that. I think that they're going to come in fired up, London, everything riding on it, and this is a huge opportunity, to have these two games right before a bye. You blew out the Falcons in the first game, but you left some points on the board, you left some points on the field. I think the Bengals game is totally opposite. I think that they score all the points that they probably should have scored against the Falcons and then some. And, again, it's a huge opportunity for the Rams. And, I'm really excited to see, potentially the offense look like it did last year or even the year prior. I mean, I think that's really, what this game is all about. They were able to do some of that against the Falcons, but, you can still see, Jared is still missing the deep ball. If he starts connecting on that deep ball, guys are getting open, and I mean, it's going to be brutal. Like, they could break 50, like, realistically, if they just, if he hits those throws, they can break 50. So it'll definitely be interesting. I guess that's really going to do it. I mean, we just wanted to kind of come in here and go live, before kickoff and, do all that. Alexis and I will be on Facebook, Instagram, whatever afterwards, just, giving our thoughts on the game prior or after. And I'll also be answering any stardom situm questions that you have for fantasy. Just, ask me on social media. I will get those to you. You can follow Alexis at the Alexis Craft on Twitter. And you can follow me at JKBogan DTR on Twitter. I'm also on Facebook, so you can reach out to me there as well. So I will be doing Stardom Situm, and just so you know, for future reference, if you ever have any questions about who you should start and who you should sit for fantasy, I'm your man, as well as any DFS questions. All right. Thank you so much, guys, and you guys take care.